problems with smart charger installations, the OLEV grant and unlooping. We are not electricians, but we know that the mains wires we are talking about in this video are extremely dangerous, and although they are on our property, they are not owned by us. They are owned by our district network operator. Specialist teams of electricians are trained to work on these circuits, so don't phone your local electrician. They are not qualified for this work. The UK government has a grant called the OLEV Grant, and this helped pay for our 7 kilowatt smart charger and its installation. But more importantly, by applying for this grant, it acted as an MOT, but this MOT was on our electric supply. We made a YouTube video about this, link at the end of this video. Our application ran into problems. Our grant and installation was stopped by our DNO because we are on a looped electric supply with our neighbours. So how can you find out if you're looped and what can you do about it? You can apply for the grant, or if you want to know the answer now, look in your electric cabinet, and if you have 2 wires going into your meter, you are probably looped. If not, check your neighbour's properties, and if they have 2 wires going into their meter, you are probably looped. If you write to your DNO, they will be able to confirm this for you. We will give you a very quick oversight of the situation, then show you how the brave men and women at our DNO unlooped us. The OLEV grant. The hidden obstacles we came across. You need a drive. You need an electric car or one on order. But you also need an adequate electric supply. Our OLEV grant was stopped because we didn't have an adequate electric supply. This information came to us after we had bought the car and the 7 kilowatt charger. Then our district network operator, in our case Electricity North West, dropped a bombshell on our installation. Our electricity connection was on a loop with our neighbour's property. Electricity North West had the key to our dilemma. They would unloop our properties, but our neighbours had to agree to having their drive dug up, which they did, so long as they didn't have to pay any money. Thankfully, Electricity North West wanted to improve their network and had a grant for this, and, God bless them, would unloop us for free. But then disaster struck and everything stopped because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But again, Electricity North West came to the rescue. They allowed our OLEV grant to go through, and we had our 7 kilowatt smart charger installed within days, thanks to a wonderful electrician who worked for Smart Home Charge. Electricity North West had one stipulation. We had to agree to only use the Ohme smart charger at off-peak times of the day until they could safely unloop us from our neighbours. Since we get very cheap electricity from Octopus Go tariff, this was something we were delighted to accept. So a small electric wire from the street to our neighbour's property would be easy to install, one would think. Think again.
We asked Electricity North West if we could film the unlooping, and they agreed. We also asked each group of workers if they objected to being filmed. Some did, some didn't, but all the workers shared their knowledge with us, and we want to thank them all. For anybody who looks down at any workers digging holes don't. They are predominantly strong, fit, and have nerves of steel, and have an incredible skill set that keeps them alive. This electric wire, for example, is classed by them as low voltage, having a mere 230 volts, and is protected by a 400 amp fuse. This fuse is so big you can sever the cable and it can still remain alive long after you are dead. Don't think there is little skill in using a digger when you are working around gas mains, water mains and telephone cables, while you're constantly watching out for the safety of pedestrians and road traffic. When they dig, how do they know they are near to a pipe or cable? They have a good idea of the position of the electric cable because they have a detailed plan of their network and a detector that identifies electric current. It would be nice if all the utilities had marked their pipes and cables on a plan, but when this estate was built they didn't keep records. But this would take some of the skill and fun out of the job. So our two-man team has to constantly dig carefully. There should be a plastic warning tape placed above pipes and cables. The gas and electric were marked, but the water pipe and phone line were not. When our team digs into the warning tape, they then dig very carefully using a shovel until they know the exact position of this utility. Thankfully, on this job they completed the excavation trench without damaging anything. Diplomacy is another requirement. Don't wind up the public or the officials who oversee the project, even when you're eating your dinner. This official, for example, works for County Council and he's carrying out an unannounced site safety check. Road signs, safety barriers and traffic control. He has the power to fine the utilities for infringements, such as forgetting to notify the public of the completion date of the work. There is another utility working in our street, and it is possible that our road signs could be accidentally removed when this utility completes their work. Our electrical team wanted to protect their backs. They took pictures of all the safety measures they had taken. They counted them and recorded the number. If somebody accidentally misappropriates their road signs, they have evidence to protect themselves from prosecution. They constantly used their initiative. For example, our team wanted to help the other utility identify their signs, so they sprayed an E in red paint on the back of our signs. That is thinking ahead to protect the public. Our trench is ready for the new electric wire. Our team used red conduit to run the wire in. The conduit protects the wire, and should the wire ever need to be replaced, this pipe will make it easier for the next team. They can pull the old wire out and run a new wire down it, saving them from having to dig another trench on this section of drive. There is more to digging holes than you think.
Thank you, Janet. By the way, my name is Ian. Electricians arrive and warn us the electricity will be disconnected in half an hour. You are looking down the hole in our pavement. There's several services here. At the top we have a conduit for the telephone cable. We have the yellow pipe, which is a gas pipe, and we have the blue pipe, which is water. What we're interested in is this wire here. This is the mains electric cable supplying our street. The electricians have removed the insulation to expose armoured sheathing. This wire is needed to keep the earth circuit intact, and this wire is where our neighbour's house will be connected to the mains cable. The electricians remove the wire that loops out of our meter box. They check the size of both house main fuses by removing them from their holders. We now have 100 amp fuses each. So to recap, the electricians have been working down the hole here. Then they worked in our electrical cabinets, which are at the side of our houses. Now the fuse to my house has been replaced. My electricity is on and I am unlooped. My electricity was off for no more than 15 minutes. However, my neighbour has no electricity, so the electrician moves to this part of the trench. They cut and mark the unlooped wire that came from my meter, marking it with electrical tape. They make the connection from the street main to my neighbour's house. It needs to be made waterproof, so they dry the wire with a blow lamp, then use this sticky rubber coated insulator to wrap round the wires. This plastic shell is placed round the exposed wires. It's filled with a special resin, and this will protect these wires from water ingress. At the other end of the trench, well before our neighbours can say our freezer has defrosted, the wire is made live. The sound you can hear in the background is the gas heater in the works van. It's heating up 2-part resin that will be poured into this shell. It makes the resin flow better. Now the shell is in place protecting the electric joint. Hot putty is used to seal the ends. Yes, the putty is heated. It is easier to work with. Tape is also wrapped round the putty to seal the ends of the shell. Then the resin is poured in and it doesn't leak while the resin hardens. The cap is fixed in place. The cap stops the wildlife, such as birds, from getting stuck in the resin. The electricians check our neighbours to see if they have electricity, and they do, and to quote them, that was quick. Measurements are taken of all the changes they have made. These will be added to the network map. There are no further checks. The electricians are happy, I am happy, but more importantly, my neighbours are happy, or they will be when their drive is back together. The electricians leave site. Thanks, lads.
Day 3. Large Network Plus truck arrives with 2 workers. Of course, Ian wastes no time getting to know today's team and wants to know the work schedule. Ian is the man without a hard hat.
I am intrigued why this group of workers are from Network Plus. I am told they are subcontractors working on behalf of Electricity North West. In fact, all the previous day's workers also worked for Network Plus, even though their vehicles had the Electricity North West logo on them. The phrase working on behalf of Electricity North West is the clue. Sorry for any confusion this may have caused. Just to add another layer of confusion, please note that when the vehicle with the name Gallagher on it arrives, it should have the name Network Plus on it. Mr. Gallagher retired last year and the company has rebranded itself, but the COVID-19 pandemic prevented Network Plus from updating their vehicles. So now you know. So what did I learn? Sand will be placed in the trench to a depth of at least 4 inches to cover the conduit, but 6 inches of sand will cover over the mains wire in the street. On top of that sand is a warning tape, then this is covered with gravel and it's all compacted. This gauge is used to check the depth of the infill is correct. Now it's time to clean up the surplus infill. This beats using a shovel. Throughout the whole project, excuse the pun, workers keep taking photographic records to prove the work conforms to the standard. Do you remember the date board from day one? Today is the day the work on the pavement needs to be completed because the council's licence runs out at midnight. If work on the pavement isn't finished on time, the county council could fine Network Plus, so the pavement is now top priority, and that is why this tarmacking team have turned up. And I'm for once left speechless with admiration for their skills.
So what does that do then?
That seals the edges to stop the water getting in between the old tar and the new.
The tarmacking team leaves site. They may return tomorrow to relay the block paving, but they'll only find out when they get their work schedule in the morning. But the project has not finished today. A flatback pickup truck arrives with a lone worker to power wash and make the pavement safe for pedestrians. Day 4, or what I should say is working day 4. In reality, 7 days have passed to this point. Today's two-man team of block pavers, yes, they are yesterday's team of tarmackers. One of them tells me that sometimes Electricity Northwest has to check the electrical work before it's backfilled, and that could account for any delay. It's rained all day, but work continued. The concrete needs to harden and kiln-dried sand needs to be brushed into the block paved joints. So we need dry weather for this. At the end of day 4, the block paving is laid so the safety barriers and signs are no longer needed and can be removed onto our drive.
That was Friday. Today is Monday, and a Network Plus worker is back to pick up the equipment and tidy the site. I am told another team of Network Plus workers are on their way with kiln-dried sand. More pictures are taken. Another team of 2 workers arrive, but were that quick we didn't have time to film them. Sand was poured all over the drive, but the plate vibrator was not used, to pack it into the joints, as we had expected. They left sand all over the drive and left post-haste, after telling our neighbour it would find its own way into the gaps. So my neighbour and I ended up sweeping the sand into the joints for them. However, within quarter of an hour an inspector for Electricity North West arrived and was none too impressed with today's efforts. More pictures were taken. Our inspector will get Network Plus back to make 1 or 2 improvements before he signs off the work. So are we happy with the job? Yes. If we had known all the work involved in unlooping us from our neighbour, would we do it again? Yes. It has made our properties safer and has added value to both properties. We have enjoyed watching the process and have learned a great deal about the detail that goes into this type of job. Now, don't forget to look in the description for your link to Octopus Energy's £50 switch incentive. This is where we buy our cheap, green, off-peak electricity for 5p a kilowatt hour. If you want more prizes, here is a link to how we applied for our £500 OLEV Grant. And please remember, always drive carefully.